he will move in with 72 teddies. I'm, of course, talking about plain old Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
The walls are closing in on the Duke and Duchess of York, and the fallout is nothing short of spectacular. 3 months. That's all the time Andrew Windsor has left before he must pack up his enormous teddy bear collection, say goodbye to the royal lodge, and face the most humiliating exile in modern royal history. But here's where it gets interesting. The woman who stood by him through every scandal, every controversy, every devastating headline has just walked away. Sarah Ferguson, Fergie, the Duchess of Grift, as some now call her. For nearly 30 years after their divorce, she's lived alongside Andrew, profiting from royal connections, maintaining her lifestyle, playing the loyal ex-wife, until now. Until King Charles made one final brutal decision that's torn this dysfunctional duo apart and left them both furious, desperate, and scrambling. What changed? What did Charles do that finally broke the bond between Britain's most notorious divorced couple? And why are their daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, now more angry with their mother than their disgraced father? This isn't just another royal scandal. This is the complete and utter destruction of everything Andrew and Fergie built together. This is about money, power, betrayal, and a king who's finally had enough. The fall from grace. Let's be brutally honest about who Andrew Windsor really is. This is a man who once held the title of Duke of York, who represented Britain as a trade envoy, who walked the corridors of power with confidence and arrogance in equal measure. Now he's just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, plain, humiliated, and about to become a cautionary tale for the ages. How the mighty have fallen doesn't even begin to cover it. The Sun newspaper, Britain's best-selling national, absolutely savaged him with their front-page headline, "3 months to quit lodge? Norfolk locals slam Andy. He will move in with 72 teddies. We can't bear him either." It's brutal! It's humiliating! And it's exactly what Andrew deserves after years of scandal and questionable behavior. But let's talk about those teddy bears for a moment, because they tell us everything we need to know about Andrew's character. 72 cuddly toys in a 30-room mansion for a grown man in his 60s. One source close to the situation joked that he has more teddy bears than girlfriends, which is both hilarious and deeply disturbing when you think about the implications. These aren't just toys. They're symbols of a man-child who never grew up, who never took responsibility, who lived in a bubble of privilege so thick that reality couldn't penetrate. And now, that bubble has run. The Royal Lodge in Windsor has been Andrew's sanctuary since 2004. It's where he retreated after stepping back from royal duties. It's where he hid from the press. It's where he arranged his teddy bears in specific positions. Yes, they had to be arranged a certain way, according to staff, and pretended everything was fine. The lease was for 75 years. He paid just £1 in rent, while spending millions in taxpayer money on renovations and upkeep. Let that sink in. While ordinary British families struggled with the cost of living crisis, Andrew paid £1 in rent for a mansion that would cost millions on the open market. But King Charles has had enough. By order of the monarch, Andrew must be out by the end of January. No extensions, no negotiations. Pack up the teddies and go. The Times newspaper dropped another bombshell. Andrew quit fights after losing loyalty of ex-wife. This is where our story takes a dramatic turn, because Sarah Ferguson, Fergie, the woman who's defended Andrew through thick and thin, who's lived with him for nearly 3 decades after their divorce, who's benefited enormously from their arrangement, has abandoned ship. The Fergie factor. Sarah Ferguson is, in many ways, the original grifter. Let's look at the facts. She divorced Andrew in 1996, 28 years ago. Yet they continued living together at Royal Lodge. Why? Because it suited both of them. Andrew got companionship and someone to manage his household. Fergie got access to royal connections, a luxury lifestyle, and the ability to trade on her association with the monarchy for decades. Make no mistake, Sarah Ferguson is not some innocent victim in this story. She got about 2 O-levels, according to sources, and her primary talent seems to be attaching herself to wealthy, powerful people and extracting maximum financial benefit. Think about it. She's remained best friends with people like Kate Moss and Elton John. She's maintained her Duchess status. She's written books, done speaking engagements, promoted products, all while living rent-free in a mansion that belongs to the crown. She's been dining out on her royal connection for 3 decades. And here's the kicker. 4 years ago, Fergie purchased a luxury Mayfair house. This week, news broke that she's selling it at a loss. You don't sell a valuable London property at a loss unless you're in serious financial trouble. You just don't. The property market in Mayfair doesn't work that way, which tells us everything we need to know about Fergie's current financial situation. She's broke. She doesn't have 2 pennies to rub together, as they say. All those years of grifting, all those commercial deals, all that royal access, and she's still managed to end up in financial difficulty. How do you even accomplish that? How do you have every advantage in the world and still end up having to sell your house at a loss? But here's where the story gets really interesting. Fergie has decided she's not moving to Sandringham with Andrew. According to The Times, the former Duke and Duchess of York are to finally separate nearly 30 years after their divorce. Ferguson will not join her ex-husband when he moves into exile on the king's estates in Sandringham, and will make her own plans to move on with her life. Move on with her life? At 64 years old, essentially broke, and with her royal meal ticket evaporating before her eyes. This reeks of desperation. This reeks of a woman who's realized the gravy train has reached its final station, and she needs to jump off before it crashes. The Guardian reported that Andrew is set to receive a 6-figure sum and an annual stipend from King Charles, designed specifically to prevent him from overspending in his new life as a commoner. But here's the crucial detail, that money is for Andrew alone. It's not for Fergie. Charles has made it crystal clear. He'll take care of his brother, but Sarah Ferguson is on her own. And Fergie knows it. That's why she's abandoned Andrew. That's why the tripod, as Sarah, Beatrice, and Eugenie called their 3-way bond, has collapsed. When the money dried up, so did her loyalty. The daughter's devastation. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie find themselves in an impossible position. Through no fault of their own, they're caught in the crossfire of their parents' spectacular implosion. And according to royal insiders, they're absolutely furious, particularly with their mother. Rebecca English, the royal editor of the Daily Mail, dropped this bombshell. The princesses are more disappointed in their mother than in their father. Let that sink in for a moment. Their father is the one who's been stripped of his titles, who's associated with the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, who's brought shame upon the entire family. Yet they're more disappointed in Sarah. Why? Because they've finally realized what everyone else has known for years. Their mother is a grifter, a gold digger, someone who's used her royal connections for personal financial gain for 3 decades, and who's now abandoning their father when he needs support most. The tripod, the term these 3 used.
So I kind of have this sort of
to describe their supposedly unbreakable bond, has completely collapsed. It's a devastating metaphor, isn't it? A tripod needs all 3 legs to stand. Remove one, and the whole structure falls apart. Fergie has removed herself, and now Beatrice and Eugenie are watching everything crumble. These young women, and they're not that young anymore, both in their 30s, are still styled as Her Royal Highness. They're still Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. But for how long? There's growing pressure for the monarchy to slim down, to modernize, to distance itself from scandal. And unfortunately for Beatrice and Eugenie, they're collateral damage in their parents' mess. They haven't done anything wrong. They've maintained relatively scandal-free lives, married well, started families, but they carry their parents' baggage, whether they like it or not.
Not on. And all the brothers were, so I took them out of their grave, poor loves, and said, come on.
Every headline about Andrew's disgrace or Fergie's financial troubles reflects on them. Every decision King Charles makes about their father's future affects their standing within the royal family. And now they're watching their mother, the woman who taught them about loyalty, about family, about standing by the people you love, prove that all of those lessons were hollow. Because when the money stopped flowing, when the luxury lifestyle became unsustainable, when King Charles made it clear there would be no more handouts for hangers-on, Fergie showed her true colors. She walked away, not because Andrew did something unforgivable. He did that years ago, and she stuck around. Not because their relationship became untenable. They've been divorced for 28 years. It's been untenable the entire time. She walked away because there's no money left in it for her. The King's decision. Let's talk about King Charles III and the impossible position he's been in regarding his brother. Charles became king at 73 years old, after waiting longer than any heir in British history. He's battling cancer. He's trying to modernize the monarchy. He's dealing with family drama that would make Shakespeare weep. And in the middle of all of this, he's got his brother Andrew, a man accused of violation, who paid millions in an out-of-court settlement, who's associated with one of the most notorious criminals of our time, living in a crown property for £1 a year. The pressure on Charles to act has been immense, from the public, from Parliament, from within the royal family itself. The Daily Mail reported that William and Kate pushed for Andrew to be ousted, believing a clean break was the only way forward. This is leadership, pure and simple. The Prince and Princess of Wales went into lockdown and said, "We're not doing business with this man. He's not going to live next door when we go to the Royal Lodge." Think about that.
Prince Andrew was stripped of his royal titles last month. William is confronted by CNN reporter.
William and Catherine, the future of the monarchy, drew a line in the sand. They made it clear, Andrew is toxic and they won't be associated with him. That's the kind of decisive action that inspires confidence. That's the kind of leadership that makes people think, maybe we should have King William sooner rather than later. But Charles, ever the cautious older brother, moved slowly. Too slowly, many would argue. He's been shunted towards taking action, as one commentator put it, pushed by public opinion, pushed by his son, pushed by the sheer weight of Andrew's toxicity. The settlement Charles has reached is telling. Andrew must leave Royal Lodge and move to a property on the Sandringham estate. He'll receive a six-figure lump sum to cover relocation costs, plus an annual stipend paid from Charles's private funds, not taxpayer money. Crucially, this stipend is specifically designed to prevent Andrew from overspending and becoming a financial burden.
Certainly I wasn't aware when the invitation was issued what was going on in the United States.
It's not much of a punishment when you think about it, is it? Andrew will be seeing out his years on the Sandringham estate, putting a log on the fire, having a little sip of brandy at 5 in the afternoon. How the other half live, indeed. But here's what Charles has actually accomplished. He's removed Andrew from a crown property that was costing taxpayers money. He's distanced the working royals from the scandal. He's made it clear that Andrew's lifestyle will be funded privately, not publicly. And he's ensured that Fergie, the grifter, the gold digger, the woman who's milked her royal connection for decades, gets nothing. That last part is crucial. Charles could have given in to pressure from Beatrice and Eugenie to support their mother. He could have provided for both Andrew and Sarah, but he didn't. He drew a line. He'll take care of his brother, but everyone else is on their own. The Sandringham exile. Let's talk about where Andrew is actually going, Sandringham, in Norfolk, and let's talk about how the locals feel about their new neighbor. "We don't want him here either," said one Norfolk resident. "He is a horrible man." The sentiment is echoed throughout the community. Nobody wants Andrew Windsor. Not in Windsor, not in London, not in Norfolk. He's become Britain's most unwanted man. The Daily Star, in a brilliant bit of cheeky journalism, parked a van outside Windsor Castle with a sign offering to help Andrew move his bedload of teddies. It's funny, but it also captures the public mood. Andrew is a joke, an embarrassment, a cautionary tale about privilege and entitlement. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sandringham is actually quite nice.
Because I have absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken.
It's a 20,000-acre estate in Norfolk, one of the Queen's favorite residences. Andrew will be living in a property on this estate, away from the public eye, funded by his brother, with an annual stipend to ensure he can maintain a comfortable lifestyle. Is that really justice? Is that really accountability? The victims of Jeffrey Epstein, including Virginia Giuffre, certainly don't think so. They're pushing for Andrew to give testimony in the United States, to explain his relationship with Epstein, to answer questions under oath. The U.S. Oversight Committee is scrutinizing the entire Epstein case, and they want Andrew to testify. But Andrew has consistently refused. He gave that disastrous interview to the BBC where he claimed he couldn't sweat and was at Pizza Express in Woking during the time he's accused of assault. When that spectacularly backfired, he paid an estimated £12 million to Virginia Giuffre in an out-of-court settlement, with the money reportedly coming from the Queen's private funds. £12 million to make the problem go away.
It's terrible. I mean, you're going away and leaving what you love behind.
Except it didn't go away. It's still there, festering, undermining the monarchy, making the entire institution look corrupt and entitled. And now Andrew gets to live out his days in comfortable exile, with a stipend, on a beautiful estate, surrounded by, what? His teddy bears, his regrets, his delusions. The public wanted more. The public wanted real consequences. The public wanted Andrew to face justice, to be held accountable, to actually suffer some meaningful punishment for his behavior. Instead, they got this: a slight downgrade in accommodation and some embarrassing headlines. Oh, and he's no longer called Prince. He's just Andrew Windsor now, as if removing a title changes anything about who he is or what he's done. The Fergie betrayal. It's about time we return to Sarah Ferguson, because her role in this story is absolutely crucial, and her betrayal of Andrew cuts deeper than people realize. For 28 years, Fergie stood by Andrew after their divorce. She defended him publicly. She lived with him at Royal Lodge. She maintained the facade of the loyal ex-wife who remained best friends with her former husband. She told anyone who would listen that they were closer after the divorce than they'd been during the marriage. And people bought it. Somehow, Fergie managed to convince the public, the press, and probably herself that this arrangement was about love, about friendship, about commitment to family. We're the happiest divorced couple in the world, she'd say, with that signature laugh of hers. But it was all a lie.
Probably had to get on better with the policeman than Prince Andrew, in fact, just to make sure that in the car journey back they said, oh, she's nice.
It was always about money, about access, about maintaining a lifestyle she could never afford on her own. Because here's what we now know. The moment King Charles made it clear that the gravy train was stopping, that there would be no more handouts, that Andrew's stipend was for Andrew alone, Fergie was gone. She announced she's making her own plans to move on with her life. After 28 years of playing the devoted ex-wife, she couldn't get away fast enough. Think about what that says about her character. Think about what that reveals about their entire relationship. It was transactional. It was always transactional. Fergie got royal status, royal connections, a luxury mansion, and the ability to market herself as the Duchess of York. In return, she provided companionship and domestic management to Andrew. But now that he's toxic, now that he's broke, now that associating with him offers no benefits, she's out. The cruelty of this cannot be overstated. Whatever else you might say about Andrew Windsor, and there's plenty to say, he's facing the most humiliating period of his life. He's been stripped of his titles. He's being forced out of his home.
You can, on occasions, get extremely lonely and isolated.
His reputation is destroyed. His legacy is ruined. He's facing potential legal jeopardy in the United States. And the one person who's been by his side for 3 decades just walked away when he needed support most. Beatrice and Eugenie see this. They see their mother's true nature, finally, clearly, undeniably. They see that all those years of talk about loyalty and family and commitment were just words, empty words that disappeared the moment the money did. That's why they're more disappointed in their mother than their father, because they expected Andrew to fail. He's been failing for years, but they believed their mother was different. They believed she genuinely cared about their father, about their family, about something more than money and status. They were wrong. The financial reality. Let's talk numbers, because the financial reality of this situation is absolutely staggering. Andrew paid £1 per year in rent for Royal Lodge. £1. Meanwhile, the property would rent for hundreds of thousands of pounds annually on the open market. The Crown Estate estimates the mansion is worth over £30 million.
Andrew has got a cast iron lease on Royal Lodge, and therefore, well, you've got to offer me something, otherwise I'll just...
Andrew had a 75-year lease that essentially gave him lifetime occupancy for virtually nothing. On top of that, he spent millions of taxpayer money on renovations and upkeep. He redecorated, he refurbished, he maintained the grounds, all on the public dime while paying £1 in rent. Now let's talk about Fergie's finances. She purchased that Mayfair property 4 years ago for a reported £5 million. She's now selling it at a loss in one of the strongest property markets in the world. How's that even possible? How do you lose money on London real estate over a 4-year period unless you're in desperate financial straits? The answer is, you can't. Fergie is broke. She's spent everything. All those years of commercial deals, of book sales, of trading on her royal connection, and she's got nothing to show for it. And now, we come to King Charles's settlement. Andrew will receive a 6-figure sum. Let's estimate £250,000 to £500,000 to cover his relocation from Royal Lodge to Sandringham. He'll also receive an annual stipend. The Guardian reported it as significant, which probably means $100,000.
And 97% of those 931 are still operating today, and they're still growing.
To £200,000 per year. This money comes from Charles's private funds, not from taxpayers. That's important. Charles is using his own wealth, generated by the Duchy of Cornwall and other private holdings, to support his brother. But here's the catch. This stipend is specifically designed to prevent Andrew from overspending. It's a controlled allowance, like what you might give a child who can't manage money. It's Charles saying, "I'll take care of you, but I don't trust you to make financial decisions on your own." That's humiliating. That's emasculating. That's reducing a 63-year-old man to the status of a dependent child. And Fergie gets nothing, not a penny. Charles made sure of that. He's made it abundantly clear. "I'll support my brother because family obligation requires it. But I'm not funding his ex-wife who's been grifting off the royal connection for 3 decades. That's why Fergie left. That's why she made her own plans to move on with her life, because there's no money in staying. There's no financial benefit to continuing the charade. The media circus. The British press has had an absolute field day with this story, and rightfully so. This is the kind of scandal that sells newspapers and generates clicks. This is royal drama at its finest, or worst, depending on your perspective. The Sun newspaper's headline was perfect. "We can't bear him either." It's cheeky, it references the teddy bears, and it captures public sentiment flawlessly. Nobody wants Andrew Windsor. Not in Windsor, not in Norfolk, not anywhere. The Daily Star went even further with their man with a van stunt, offering to help Andrew move his teddies. It's journalism as performance art, and it's absolutely brilliant. They're making Andrew look ridiculous, while also making a serious point. He's being treated far too leniently for someone accused of such serious crimes. The Times, always more serious, focused on the Fergie angle. Andrew quit fights after losing loyalty of ex-wife. That's the real story, isn't it? Not that Charles is kicking him out. We all expected that eventually. The real story is that the one person who stood by him for 28 years has abandoned him. The Daily Mail, with its unrivaled royal coverage, provided multiple angles. William and Kate pushed for Andrew to be ousted. How will Andrew cope with bleak reality of his new life in exile? And wife Urgie's daughters are now more upset with her. They're covering every angle, talking to every source, building a complete picture of this family's dysfunction. And then there's the Guardian's focus on the financial settlement, Andrew to receive 6-figure sum and stipend from the king. This is important because it highlights what many see as the fundamental injustice of the situation. Andrew faces no real consequences. He loses some prestige. He has to move houses, but he's still being funded by his brother to live a comfortable lifestyle. Is that accountability? Is that justice? The media coverage has been relentless, and it should be. This is a story about privilege, about entitlement, about powerful people facing consequences, or in this case, not facing real consequences for their actions. The American problem. We cannot discuss this story without addressing the elephant in the room. The United States government wants Andrew to testify about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The U.S. Oversight Committee is scrutinizing the entire Epstein case. They want to know who knew what, when they knew it, and what they did about it. and Andrew Windsor features prominently in that investigation. There are photographs of Andrew with Epstein. There are flight logs showing Andrew traveled on Epstein's private jet. There are witnesses who place Andrew at Epstein's properties. And then there's Virginia Giuffre, who accused Andrew of violating her when she was 17 years old. Andrew has consistently denied these allegations. He gave that disastrous BBC interview where he claimed he couldn't sweat due to a medical condition and that he was at Pizza Express in Woking at the time of the alleged assault. The interview was so catastrophically bad that it led to him being stripped of his royal duties. Rather than face further scrutiny, Andrew paid Virginia Giuffre an estimated £12 million in an out-of-court settlement. He admitted no wrongdoing, but he paid her millions to make the case go away. But it hasn't gone away. Virginia Giuffre's family and lawyers are pushing for Andrew to testify in the United States. They feel vindicated that he's been stripped of his royal titles, but they want more. They want him to answer questions under oath. They want him to explain his relationship with Epstein in detail. And here's where it gets politically complicated. Peter Mandelson, the newly appointed British ambassador to the United States, was also close to Jeffrey Epstein. There are photographs of them together. There are questions about Mandelson's relationship with Epstein that have never been fully answered. Moreover, it was Peter Mandelson who pushed for Andrew to become a British trade envoy when there were already question marks over Andrew's integrity. Mandelson supported Andrew's appointment despite concerns from others in government. So now you have a situation where the British ambassador to the United States has his own connections to Epstein, and the US government wants to question a member of the British royal family about Epstein. It's a diplomatic nightmare. Andrew has so far refused to cooperate with US authorities. He's remained in the United Kingdom, where he cannot be compelled to testify in American courts. Moving to Sandringham doesn't change that. He'll still be in the UK, still protected from US legal action. But the pressure will continue. The questions won't go away. And every day that Andrew refuses to cooperate, he looks more guilty in the court of public opinion. The future of the monarchy. This scandal has reignited serious questions about the future of the British monarchy. Should it continue to exist? Should it be reformed? Should it be abolished entirely? The Republicans, those who want to end the monarchy, are circling like sharks. They can smell blood in the water. They're publishing articles in left-wing magazines like The New Statesman arguing that this scandal proves the institution is irredeemably corrupt and should be abolished. But public opinion polls tell a different story. Despite everything, despite Andrew's scandal, despite Harry and Meghan's departure, despite all the drama, the majority of British people still support the monarchy. They want reform, yes. They want modernization, absolutely. But they don't want abolition. And here's where William and Catherine become crucial. They represent the future of the monarchy. They represent modernization without revolution. They represent a clean break from the scandals of the past while maintaining the traditions that people value. William made it clear he wouldn't tolerate Andrew living next to him at Royal Lodge. That's leadership. That's someone who understands that the monarchy's survival depends on maintaining public trust, and you can't maintain public trust while harboring someone accused of assault. Catherine has been equally impressive. Despite battling her own health issues, she's maintained grace and dignity. She's shown what modern royalty should look like: accessible, relatable, but still maintaining the mystique and pageantry that makes the monarchy appealing. There's a growing argument that King Charles should consider abdication, not immediately, but soon. He's 75 years old, he's battling cancer, and he's dealing with family drama that would overwhelm someone half his age. Would it be better for the monarchy if he stepped aside and let William take over? William as king would represent a fresh start. He'd bring energy, modern thinking, and a clear vision for a slimmed-down, more efficient, more accountable monarchy. He'd also have Catherine beside him, possibly the most popular royal family member of her generation. The question is, does Charles have the humility to recognize this? Will he put the institution before his own ego and consider stepping aside? Or will he cling to the crown he waited 73 years to wear? What this all means? So where does this leave us? What have we learned from the spectacular implosion of Andrew Windsor and Sarah Ferguson? We've learned that privilege doesn't protect you forever. Eventually, the bill comes due. Andrew spent decades living off taxpayers while contributing virtually nothing. He behaved poorly, associated with criminals, and brought shame upon his family. And now, finally, there are consequences. Are those consequences sufficient? Absolutely not. Andrew should be testifying in the United States. He should be answering questions under oath. He should be held accountable for his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and for the allegations against him. Instead, he gets to live on the Sandringham estate with a comfortable stipend. He gets to see out his years in relative comfort, funded by his brother, protected from real accountability. It's not justice. It's barely even punishment. It's a gentle downgrade wrapped in PR spin. But we've also learned something important about loyalty and character. We've learned that Sarah Ferguson, for all her talk about family and commitment, was always just a grifter. 28 years of playing the devoted ex-wife, and she walked away the moment the money dried up. Her daughters see it now. Beatrice and Eugenie have finally recognized what everyone else has known for years. Their mother is not who she claimed to be. She's not the loyal friend standing by her ex-husband through difficult times. She's a gold digger who stuck around as long as it was profitable and left the moment it wasn't. That betrayal cuts deeper than any newspaper headline. That betrayal has destroyed whatever remained of the tripod, the bond between Sarah, Beatrice, and Eugenie. You can strip away titles, you can force someone to move houses, you can reduce someone's income, but destroying a mother's relationship with her daughters? That's real damage. That's lasting damage. And finally, we've learned that the monarchy is at a crossroads. King Charles is trying to modernize the institution while dealing with scandals that would have been unthinkable in his mother's day. He's making difficult decisions, removing Andrew from Royal Lodge, cutting off Fergie, distancing the family from toxicity. But is he moving fast enough? Is he being decisive enough? Or is he, as one commentator said, being shunted towards taking action by public pressure and by William and Catherine's clear stance? The future of the monarchy likely depends on William and Catherine. They represent a clean break from the past. They represent modernization and accountability. They represent what the monarchy could be if it's willing to change. But they also represent a challenge to Charles. Step aside and let the next generation take over, or cling to power and risk the institution's survival. Outro. Andrew Windsor and Sarah Ferguson are furious. Andrew is furious about being forced out of Royal Lodge, about losing his titles, about being reduced to just Andrew, with a controlled allowance from his brother. Fergie is furious that the money has dried up, that her decades-long grift has finally ended, that she's facing financial reality for the first time in her adult life. But here's the thing, nobody cares about their fury. Nobody sympathizes with their plight. They had every advantage, every privilege, every opportunity, and they squandered it. They behaved badly, spent recklessly, and now they're facing consequences. The only tragedy in this story is Beatrice and Eugenie, caught in the crossfire of their parents' dysfunction. They've done nothing wrong, yet they carry the burden of their family name. They watch their father disgraced and their mother revealed as a grifter, and they have to maintain dignity through it all. King Charles has made his decision. Andrew is out. Fergie is out. The Royal Lodge chapter is closed. Now Andrew will live in Sandringham exile with his teddy bears, his regrets, and his stipend. It's not the ending anyone wanted. It's not justice, but it's what we've got. A gentle punishment for someone who deserves much worse, wrapped in the pageantry and protocol of an institution struggling to survive in the modern world. The question now is, what comes next? Does William become king sooner than expected? Does the monarchy continue its slow evolution? Or does this scandal accelerate the push for real reform? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. Andrew and Fergie's furious reactions to their fall from grace won't change anything. The decision is made, the die is cast, and Britain's most notorious divorced couple will face the future separately, no longer united by their toxic bond of mutual advantage. 3 months to pack up 72 teddy bears and leave. After decades of privilege, that's all the time Andrew has left before everything changes forever. And Fergie? She's already gone, moving on to her next opportunity, her next target, her next attempt to maintain the lifestyle she can't afford, because that's what grifters do. They move on when one source dries up and find another. The Royal Lodge is about to be empty. The teddy bears will be packed, and a new chapter begins for the British monarchy, one that hopefully will be free from the dysfunction, the scandal, and the entitled behavior that characterized the Andrew and Fergie era. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments and also share, like, and subscribe for more royal news updates like this.